Right, hello, my name is George Lever and I've been wanting to make this video for a little while. The rabbit hole that I've been going down over the last couple of weeks has got to do with guitar cab impulses, namely with regards to the fact that I had no idea up until recently whether they were made with the same process, made with the same intent in mind, so whether they were all raw or not to some degree, and whether they worked for all amps or amp sims. Because it turns out that a few different companies and a few different manufacturers have their own process that are designed for their own software or own hardware load box units, which means that they're not going to always play nice with other things. That threw up a lot of questions in my mind. One was, I feel like an idiot now, and the second was, how many other people are in this type of situation that I'm in without realizing it. So I started collecting information. I spoke with Miko from ML Sound Lab. I spoke with Jeff Dunn. I had a couple of conversations with one of the guys over at Neural DSP with regards to how the thought process behind their own IRs, because their software is very popular. And I also spoke with Jay over at Grin Digital. I own impulses by all these companies, fortunately, so it means that this video is not paid for, so I can just talk quite freely about my discoveries without sort of being worried about being penalized. And what I discovered was quite interesting. Not all guitar or cab impulses are made equally. Some are made to be curated, so pre-EQ'd, pre-saturated, with all the bells and whistles taken care of so you can just get to work. But that can build you into a corner, and some people take the consideration of it should just be as if you've got a cab in a room and with a mic and nothing else. The consistent thing seems to be is that not a lot of companies that make cab impulses tend to tell you what it's compatible with. And that's where the problem starts. So let's talk a little bit more about this before we get fully into the rabbit hole, right? For those of you that are happy with your guitar tone, you probably don't need to care about this, that's fine. I'm making this video because I made a mistake, and I kind of feel like there's probably one or two more of us that are also maybe unaware. So here we are, talking about guitar cab impulses, and then maybe, hopefully, we'll find some resolution along the way. So let's get into it. Guitar cabs, well, the impulse packs sit on this line from raw off the mic as if you've got a cab in the room with you, all the way through to you don't have to EQ this anymore, we've taken care of that for you. The outcome here is then on us, the consumer, the professional engineer, or the guy in his bedroom where we all start to decide whether it's right for us. Can't help but feel like that's a bit backwards, because we can end up spending money in the wrong place. Now, this isn't supposed to be a video where I'm like ripping on companies, but it does irk me when it's unclear what it's intended for. The impulse. I guess this goes and counts for things beyond just impulses, but this is what we're focusing on here. So it turns out there is a broad spectrum of impulses, and then it's really difficult to tell what they're for. All right, it's fortunate that, you know, we have things like reviews on YouTube or company websites that have audio demos. That's useful. We have stuff to consider and listen to. But some of those companies then mix the audio rather than leaving it raw. So then that kind of makes it a bit wonky. It does show us what we could do with it, but it doesn't show us whether that's the way that we want to work with it. We might just want to hear what it is like straight up. More confusion. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through 4 different manufacturers of cab impulses, show you where I think they sit on this spectrum from raw to curated. I'll take you through the way that I test out an IR. It's typically with playing chords, because then you can hear everything that's happening within the IR, all the frequencies at once. I'm going to show you those in solo without putting the brand name next to the number, and then I'll show you it in context with a drum and bass backing. And what was interesting is I found that my taste changed based upon context, which I didn't expect, but I'm not complaining. More power to the person that knows more. And then hopefully it should show you, based upon what you hear and based upon your own workflow, what you could be aiming for in future purchases. Maybe it'll help your decision making. I know it helped mine, at least, so I hope it helps yours. So, guitars. Cool. Have you made a note of which one you liked the most? Let's try it with some drums and bass. Right, I'm editing the video at the moment, and I forgot to state that during the examples 1 through till 4, the impulses get progressively more curated, more coloured. So the first one will be the rawest sample that I have, and the fourth one will be the most coloured impulse that I've got. So they're all the same cab, more or less. They should be the same V30 and they should be a 57, but that manufacturer's version of that tone. So what you should be able to hear is how much the performance changes, and you should also hear saturation increase as the impulse becomes more altered. Right, thanks. Anyway, back to it. All right. That was interesting, right? At least I find it interesting. The thing that I didn't expect was for my taste to change as much as it did, but it did. I tested this with Nathan, my assistant, as well, and he 180'd exactly on what he wanted, which is interesting as well. For me, my preference in solo was either tone number 2 or tone number 3. Now, tone number 2 is an impulse by Jeff Dunn, and tone number 3 is one of the cab impulses from the Get Good, the Nolly archetype by Neural DSP. I actually thought the Bogren surprised me because I thought in solo it was too bright, but then in context it seemed to marry up. I didn't care as much as I thought I would about tweaking, and the selfish part of me that just wanted to get on with it started deviating to the more convenient style of impulses, I suppose. I thought the perfectionist in me would want to stick on one side and stay with raw and be in complete control, and then the convenience side of me just sort of like took over and won and was like, actually the ones over here are going to be a lot quicker for you to use. I guess that makes sense because that's what they're designed to do. The setup that I used is my JCM into a Sur load box, for those of you that are wondering. There's a close-up of the setting here. And that was it. And we used my... And I used this without destroying the light. This is my Wirebird Telecaster. It was made, I don't know, 10 years ago. It's pretty simple. It's in drop C, and these are bare knuckle mules. That's about it. I tried to pick the most direct guitar that I've got because I didn't want it to be super unobtainable. The bare knuckle mules are supposed to be like Les Paul pickups, you know, those old PAF style things, so it should be pretty, I'm going to say normal sounding. It is a pretty normal sounding guitar, so it sounds like a guitar. So I suppose the most interesting thing that I've learned, especially from having the conversations that I have with the manufacturers, no V30 is alike. You can have, like we've heard, 3 or 4 different companies doing what should be a fairly similar cabinet, and the results be quite drastically different. I guess that kind of means that we as the consumer, I think we can get to know a family sound, and I think the V30 or any speaker in that case should just be considered as a family sound. It seems like depending on the year, the V30 changes its tone. The same can be said for 57s, which famously change how good they are based upon luck and quality control. Just hadn't considered that it would happen with speaker cones and cabinet construction overall. I guess the takeaway is that a V30 is a family sound because it changes so much over time, depending on what year it's made in. So a company can say it's a V30 in their cab, but it may not mean that you get the V30 sound that's in your head. And that was perplexing to me, but I guess it makes sense. Things age over time and construction methods change over time. I guess it's just a bit disappointing. I didn't expect my taste to change like that, but that's what this video is for, ultimately. What are some of your favourite impulses? What are some of your biggest mistakes that you've made with them? I've made, apparently, loads in the last 8 years, so there we go. Anyway, thank you for sticking till the end of the video. Means a lot. If you liked it, thumbs up. You know the rigmarole. I hate saying it, but a thumbs up does really boost the algorithm on YouTube. Also hate saying that. So I'm just going to leave. Thank you. Until next time, don't be a dick. Eat your goddamn vegetables. Don't go outside. Floor is lava. Blah, blah, blah. Air is poison, etc. I'll see you next time. Thank you very much, guys. Cheers.